Welcome to Podband Pipecast.
The premier pipe band podcast.
The spookiest.
The spookiest.
Pipe band podcast.
Is there a P letter that means spooky?
Peril.
Perilous. The most perilous pipe band podcast.
Perily.
That's pearly scary.
Oh.
Alex and Sean are both sitting here. Paranormal. They're both sitting here like, oh, this is bad.
So, for those of you watching the video, we're carving pumpkins right now, because why not?
Yeah, for those of you not watching the video, it's okay, because we'll tell some ghost stories.
Yes.
While we're carving the pumpkins, and they're going to be pipe band related ghost stories.
Yes, we wrote some.
Well, I mean, they could be true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We're going to tell you some true stories. Some truly
spooky stories.
Truly spooky, perilous pipe band, paranormal,
putrid,
perilous pipe band, paranormal
podcast stories.
So yeah, we're going to get to it. We got 2 pumpkins here. And fun fact, we're trying to be historically accurate, of course. So originally, the first jack-o'-lanterns, which were it's actually from a Celtic holiday. Go Google it. But anyway, the original jack-o'-lanterns were actually turnips. Because, that's what they had in the British Isles. So we have some turnips here that our crew is going to attempt to carve. They're going to make some spooky looking faces.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens. Yeah. But keep in mind these turnips are American turnips, which means they're smaller than their European counterparts.
I can't believe you didn't import Scottish turnips.
I know. I also can't believe...
Cut the show. Cut the episode.
I also can't believe that American turnips are not like GMO modified to be like as big as a pumpkin,
GMO modified?
GMO.
Genetically genetically modified.
GMO'd.
Your PIN number.
There's not enough GMOs in these, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
I don't feel American. I mean, I feel American because I'm going to carve a pumpkin, but you guys, good luck. Okay. All right, let's get to the ghost stories and the pumpkin carving.
Yes. Stay tuned. Right now.
Here we go. So we're carving these pumpkins.
Yeah, I'm doing some tenor mallets.
And I'm doing our Podband Pipecast logo, because of course.
Because that's what we do.
Yeah, and the boys are doing some beautiful turnips.
Spooky turnip faces.
Yeah, they're going to be quite spooky. By the way, if you would like to see this video, it is going to be on patreon.com/podbandpipecast, and for the low price of $5 per month, plus tax, you can watch this and all of our other episodes on video, and also you get them early too.
Yeah, 2 days early.
And other cool content sometimes we have on there. And yeah,
so
interact with our other patrons on there. They're all nice people.
Support us on Patreon so we can buy some new microphone cords.
Yeah. And whatever. New equipment. So, yeah, if you're watching this on Patreon, you're going to watch us carve pumpkins and also tell this story by the campfire. And
by this roaring campfire.
It's very hot, actually. Wow. Okay.
We need to extend this chair area. Or maybe you're not supposed to be on the chair area.
I feel like you are.
You're right.
Yeah, what is the temperature right now? Temperature's 81 degrees Fahrenheit.
Sauna.
And this is a hot fire. Anyway,
spooky story. Okay. Spooky. Oh, yeah. So, true story.
True story?
True story,
oh,
yeah.
Man.
It's not a true story. Don't at me.
Could be a true story.
Maybe. I don't know.
Might have happened to someone.
Yeah. They could happen. So, long ago, there was a piper who practiced because he wanted to be the best.
Like everyone?
Mm-hmm. But he always got second place. was never first place. It didn't matter the competition or the competitors or the venue or the weather.
Poor man is cursed.
I know. Or is he?
Oh.
But he always got second place. And one day, he looked up on the internet how to lift curses. And then long ago on the internet.
Long ago. I mean, it's pre-COVID, so
yeah, that's pretty long ago.
Yeah.
That's a roaring fire.
Let's look at some of those fire sounds.
What do you have to say about the story?
Hope it doesn't melt the
Interesting.
microphone. It's very hot.
Yeah, so Mr. Second Place Piper looked up on the internet how to remove curses because he thought, damn, I must be cursed
I mean, clearly.
to get second place all the time. So he tried a bunch of stuff, got some hex bags, anti-hex bags, got some sage, quartz.
All the things you normally do to lift curses.
Yeah, he got them all off of Etsy because, you know.
Yeah, I mean Etsy.
Yeah. So the crystals and things from Etsy came. He went to his next competition and he still got second place.
What the heck?
So then he thinks he isn't cursed. So he goes.
Maybe he just sucks.
Yeah. So he goes to the crossroads at the intersection on an old dusty trail and meets a demon.
Oh.
And he says, "Oh, demon, I will sell my soul for some good bagpipes."
Nice. Gonna get some new pipes.
Yeah. So the demon's like, you will die in 30 years.
That's pretty good. I mean, by this time he's probably like however old, you know?
Yeah. He's like 20. So,
So, you know.
he'll die at 50.
You know, is it worth it? I don't know. You tell us.
And he says, yes, anything to be first place. And the demon says, okay, here are the pipes. And he says, thank you.
Are they made of gold?
No. That would be suspicious.
Oh, right.
I also don't think gold would play well.
True.
Yeah. So he invites the demon to the show, and the demon's like, I don't like bagpipes.
I mean, figures.
So yeah, that's the end of that. And then he practices on those pipes. And then his competition comes up, and he plays his heart out, and he plays the best he's ever played.
Wow.
Can never play any better than what he just played.
Nice.
And he got second place.
Oh, the pain.
The pipes were good. Pipes were the best. They made him the best that he could be. But he didn't have the stuff to be first place. So he quit. And he died.
In 30 years.
In 30 years, yeah. The hellhounds came and ripped him up. Ripped him to shreds. Ripped him to sheds.
That is truly a terrifying concept. Just practicing. Just never being good enough.
Yeah.
Oh man, my soul.
Practice as hard as you can, and it's just not enough. Some people don't got it. Or do they?
Or do they?
Or do they? Maybe you just need to practice a little more. I don't know.
I'm not here to judge him.
He was only 20. I mean,
true.
Got his whole life ahead of him.
If you're 20 years old, you got your whole life ahead of you. At least 30 years.
At least 30 years.
I mean, hopefully, but you know.
Yeah. I don't know the weather.
True.
That's my first story.
That's a nice story.
Thanks.
I mean, that's not it's a good story. It's not nice.
Yeah,
it's spooky.
Spooky to think that you're never good enough.
Yeah. Is it my turn to tell a story?
Yes, please take over.
Okay. All right, folks. Buckle up because it's going to be a spooky one.
I'm ready for the spooks.
All right. And it's funny that we have a little bit of a similar theme in this story. By the way, this like your story, this story was passed down through generations.
Generations and generations.
And generations. And some of the details are not quite clear. So, keep that in mind. So this story happened a long time ago, but also not that long ago at the same time. In a place that's far away, but also much closer than you would believe.
Interesting.
We're gonna call this pipe band the story is about the Townsville and District Pipe Band. Just for lack of, like
Isn't
I said,
that the town from Powerpuff Girls?
I mean,
Oh, is that in Fairly Odd Parents? I think it's Powerpuff Girls.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean the details. Like I said,
Yeah.
not important. Could be your pipe band. I don't know.
What?
Dimstill.
Yeah.
Dim. So, the Townsville Pipe Band.
Okay.
And the band was practicing one night at their practice hall, as bands used to do.
Back in the day.
Long ago, yet not so long ago, as I said. They were practicing, and as is typical, the drummers were not in the big hall area because pipers were tuning in there and they didn't want to be around there, so they were somewhere else. And then the drummers came in to practice with the pipers, and there was a curious-looking rope tension drum sitting in the corner of the hall. And the drummers were all like, well, dude, what's with this drum? Like, where'd this come from? And one of the pipers was like, oh, yeah, some old lady dropped it off. And, typical piper fashion, not getting any details. Because it's a drum and it's over their head. Everything about drummer things.
It's just a drum.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And
so the lead drummer, who, once again, it could have been a man, could have been a woman. We'll go with gender neutral and say Joe. Who I'll say it's a she. Once again, details. So Joe, who's the lead drummer, went up and talked to the piper, said, what do you mean? Who is this lady that dropped this off? Where'd she get it from? Is it a donation? Like, what is going on? And Piper was like, I don't know. She just was like, here, you can have this drum. I don't want it anymore. And the only other thing he could get out of this piper, or she could get out of this piper, was that it was a mysterious looking old lady. So anyway, they had this rope tension drum. Joe says, all right, well, that's cool. I mean, we're not probably going to use this drum, but I'll take it home. I like playing with cool things like this. And it's a drum, so why not? So all that night, by the way, she kept thinking about that drum sitting in the corner. It was almost like it was staring at her, which is a strange thing to think about a drum.
It's just a drum.
I know, but spooky.
Like
the idea of like it's like an inanimate object, but somehow it's like looking at you, like judging you.
Spooky.
And she's like, oh, I can't wait to get this drum home and try playing it. And the drum also came with a pair of drumsticks, which is cool because, old drums don't usually come with the original drumsticks. So she took it home that night, and she's looking at it. She's like, you know what? I'm not really much of a historian, but it's interesting that this drum the paint job it looks weathered like it's the original paint job, but it's actually black. And that's unusual because the old rope tension regimental style drums used to be like, a color that would match the uniforms of the day, which might have been red, or they might have been, blue, whatever. They might have had pictures painted on them. But this one was solid black, and it was beautiful. She thought maybe it had been repainted. No, it was still weathered, still looked like the old kind of drum. And the drumsticks were curiously heavy. Like, okay, they might have been a little bit... She expected them to be a little bit different than regular pipe band drumsticks, but whatever. They were heavier than she expected. So she thought, all right, I'll put on an old drum sling I have and try playing this drum. And she puts the drum on and starts playing and playing and playing and
Must have really liked that drum.
And eventually she looked at the clock, and it's 4 a.m. And she's like, well, I gotta go to work the next day. Like, how have I been playing this drum for so long? The time just seemed to fly by. So she put down the drum, she got a couple hours of sleep, went to work, and all the day at work she kept thinking about this drum. I need to get home and play that drum. And that night, she got home from work. She had to eat dinner and stuff, but as soon as she was done, she went and played the drum. And played, and played, and played, and could not stop playing this drum. Well, so finally she put the drum down and went to sleep. But even at night, she started dreaming about this drum. She dreamt that she was playing this drum and could not stop playing the drum. And she woke up and she was standing in her living room playing the drum.
Dang.
Now, Jo is not a sleepwalker, and so this was a very strange occurrence for her to be, first of all, standing in her living room asleep, second of all, playing a drum, which is very loud and should have woken her up.
Neighbors must really hate her right now.
Yeah, I mean, her neighbors didn't say anything, which is strange. So anyway, she got freaked out by this drum. So freaked out, in fact, that after a week of this happening to her, where she's getting like hardly any sleep because she's staying up all night playing this drum, she decides to get rid of this drum. So she drives out to the middle of the wilderness near where she lives, throws the drum off a cliff along with the drumsticks, and drives home, and the drum is sitting in her living room.
Wow. Spook.
With the drumsticks. And she picks it up and starts to play. And she continues to play, and actually she starts marching. And she marches right out the front door of her house and down into the street and continues marching and playing and marching and playing and marching and playing. And she is never seen again.
Dang.
And to this day, if you listen carefully on a cold, dark night, you might even hear the sound of Jo still playing the drum. Whoa.
Where did that come from?
It's Jo.
Dang.
Exactly.
It's a spook.
That's the end of the story.
It was much better than mine.
You got another one, though,
I got one more to try to redeem myself.
You got it.
This is about a piper again. So, long ago, in the before time, there was a piper. Or a wannabe piper.
Aren't we all?
True. Are we, though?
I mean, not really.
They're a wannabe piper because they have too small of hands.
Oh.
Their hands were too small to get all of the things, to get the pads over the
chanter holes. Right? Yeah. Little like kid hands.
Yeah. Little kid hands. It's a grown adult with little kid hands, but they just really want to be a piper.
Follow your dreams.
So they did. They tried. They tried so hard. They tried stretching techniques where they would like tie a rope around their finger and slam a door, try to stretch their fingers out. Went to some doctors, tried to get some hand surgery to extend those fingers. But nothing that they did worked. So one day, one night, they went to the neighbor's house. Wait, no. Okay, cut that part out. So, after the doctor's appointment where they told them that there was nothing that they could do to make his hands any bigger and they would never play pipes again. He went to get some coffee and contemplate them life struggles.
As you do.
Mm-hmm. And while he was getting coffee, he saw somebody with the biggest hands he'd ever seen. And he sat there thinking, man, if I had those hands, I could play the bagpipes finally.
Yeah.
So he follows this guy. Follows this big man hands guy.
Tries to find the secret of his man hands.
He follows him all the way home. And he sits outside of his house until it becomes dark. And then once night falls, they go into the house and he chops off his hands. And then he takes those hands home and he chops his hands off. And, you know, he's like carefully chopping one off, sewing it on so that he can chop the other one and sew it on.
Okay.
So that's how he does it on his own. So he's got these great big hands and he goes on to become the best bagpiper that the land has ever seen.
Dang.
Oh,
dang.
I'm trying to spook. So he's got these great big hands, these great bagpiping hands, and he plays them all the time, and he wins at all the competitions, and he's the best piper that anyone has ever seen.
Wait, is this the guy who keeps getting first when the other guy keeps getting second?
Maybe.
Could be.
So he's the best piper in the whole land.
I see what you did there.
So he's got these big man hands, and he's won so many competitions. But then one day he didn't win, and he noticed that his hands weren't working as well as they were.
What the heck?
Fire is too big. His hands weren't working as well as they had been, and he noticed that they're starting to turn black. So he realizes he needs to do it again. He needs new hands.
He needs new big man hands.
So he finds more hands, and he takes them, and he just keeps chopping and redoing his hands. He's still the best piper there is, but he has to keep getting hands every 4 competitions.
But I mean, most people wear long sleeve shirts or jackets, so you could never even tell.
Exactly. Yeah,
cover up those stitches.
Legend says he's still on the hunt for hands.
Dang.
Wash those hands.
There's so many things to be on the lookout for now that I'm realizing. People giving you sketchy drums, people stealing your hands, getting second place all the time.
Cursed pipes, yeah.
Yeah, cursed pipes.
Or not cursed pipes. Cursed. Not cursed, just not being good enough. That's a spooky concept. Not being good enough.
Were they really just regular pipes? Is what I want to know.
They were pipes that made you play the best you could play.
Okay.
And the best you could play was not good enough.
Okay, but do you still need to practice in order to play the best you can play?
I mean, I guess not. I don't know.
Oh boy, those were some spooky stories.
I don't know how I'm going to sleep tonight.
No, definitely not.
Gonna have to turn on some cartoons.
I think we're going to stay up a little bit later and eat some s'mores next to this roaring fire.
Yep.
Some schmoes, as my buddy Buzz Lightyear says.
Is that what he says?
That's what he says.
I don't remember that. Oh, no, I do remember
Toasty schmoes.
I remember that now.
Oh, I can't say that on air. Disney's going to sue us.
No, don't tell Disney, but
can't say Disney.
Don't.
Oh no. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Thanks for tuning in to our spooky stories to tell to your pipe band.
In the dark.
In the dark.
Yeah.
Copyright.
You can't poke the fire while we're doing the outro. Because it's just distracting.
So Alex is using a stick to poke the fire, and it's going to catch on fire one of these times. And we're going to get to see what happens when he catches the stick on fire. Well, that's it, folks. Stay safe this Halloween.
Yeah. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed this show, then support us on Patreon for exclusive content, as well as the video of us recording this. We'll have special exercises we'll be writing, as well as tips and tricks with tenor drumming and other instruments to come. Subscribe to us on YouTube for some tenor tutorials and possibly other tutorials later on. And like us on Facebook at Podband Pipecast.